Around the article on, for some of you, it's page 7. For some of you, it starts on page 8. But you should see the aim, what are the consequences of sea level rise, at the top. So as we annotate, we're going to highlight text that describes consequences or the costs, right, of sea level rise. And we're going to pause after we highlight those or after each paragraph to summarize the consequence and elaborate how it affects the economy, the environment, or human health in our Google comments. Consequence of sea level rise, adapted from NASA. As sea level rises, ocean waves won't roll on shore and submerge houses and communities all at once like a summer blockbuster. The first signs of sea level rise will be increased damage from hurricanes and other storms and even high tides. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the increased damage from hurricane storms and high tides. And I'm going to make a comment because I can connect that to what I learned previously about people living on coasts who have experienced devastating damage from these most recent hurricanes and storms. So worse damage from hurricanes, storms, high tide will be experienced due to sea level rising. This affects human health, people living on the coasts and on islands will have less access or none to hospitals. They'll get injured and may suffer death. Okay. And I can even add on to that comment by saying this also affects the economy of these areas when they have to pay for all of the damages caused. Some developing countries cannot afford this. All right, minor and major flooding will become more frequent. Coastlines will erode and creep backward almost imperceptibly. In fact, all of these impacts are already happening. Flooding. As the waterline creeps up along coast, storms and flooding will happen more frequently and dramatically. I'm going to highlight that. Think of the ocean as the launching pad for storms and floods. The closer the sea is to human communities, the easier it is for floods to reach homes, roads, and towns. Okay. Flooding over roads, which is becoming more common in some places during high tides, can cause traffic jams and block emergency vehicles from reaching flooded areas. And this, we're going to highlight that and we're going to leave the comment. Impacts human health and the economy can't access infrastructure, transportation. So like not only can people get injured, but people won't be able to go to work, etc. Imperceptibly to us, meaning like we can't perceive it, we don't even see it happening. Flooding is already becoming more and more common in the eastern United States. A 2014 Reuters analysis found that before 1971, water reached flood levels no more than 5 days on average every year in several U.S. coast cities. Since 2001, however, that number has risen to 20 or more days on average. I'll highlight that statistic. As floods become more frequent, these inconveniences will add up and make people's lives harder, not to mention the cost of money because of the damages. Affects people and the economy. Likewise, flooding during storms, sometimes called storm surges, will reach farther inland as sea level rises. During hurricanes and other large storms, strong winds push water beyond normal high tide. They're likely to get worse as sea level rises due to increased flooding danger on the board. Okay, so I'm going to put where storm surges are likely to get worse. Changing coastlines. Sea level rise will reshape coastlines as incoming water floods dry areas, and erodes coastal features like beaches, cliffs, and dunes. This already happens in big storms like Hurricane Sandy, and encroaching sea level will cause more drastic changes. As waves reach further inland, they can inundate wetlands and kill marsh grass that holds the sediment in place. That means they can completely overwhelm and flood them. So I'm also going to put negatively impacts environment, destroys animal habitats, and I'll leave it at that. Without grass and anchor, sediment and mud can be pulled to sea or further inland. The effects on sandy beaches will depend on how they're developed. Sandy beaches constantly change as waves, currents, and tides carry sand and sediment to and from the shore. When sea level rises on an undeveloped beach, natural processes push the beachfront towards the land. However, there are many homes and businesses behind the beach that will prevent the beach from moving inland. According to the Sea Level Grant, nearly 60% of California's sandy shoreline is not able to migrate landward because it's bordered by man-made structures. Seems important. Barrier islands, small islands made of sand that run parallel to the coast and act as barriers for the coast during storm surges, will also be impacted by sea level rise. So right now you should, on your own, write your comment about how that impacts the environment, people's health, or the economy. So make sure you pause and then replay when you're done commenting. Saltwater intrusion. Sea level rise is not just a problem of water, it's also a problem of salt. Imagine saltwater flooded a farmer's field or a coastal forest. Not only does the area have to survive flooding, but also drenching saltwater that kills plants and irreversibly soil chemistry. So make sure you highlight that and then write your comment. How does that affect environment, humans, or economy? Saltwater flooding can mean death for these ecosystems. Already, scientists have seen stands of ghost forests where once healthy trees were killed by saltwater flooding. That would be a good thing to highlight or make a comment on. This isn't just an effect of flooding. Salty ocean water can also flow underground into groundwater reservoirs, known as aquifers, which are used for drinking water. That's important. I would also explain in your comment how that affects human health, the environment, or the economy. It can also flow into the water below the surface of the land, making the soil too salty for trees and plants to grow. This is called saltwater intrusion. Saltwater intrusion can also affect freshwater areas that fisheries and coastal communities rely upon. The challenge will be human adaptation to these kinds of changes. This is particularly difficult when the saltwater intrusion affects drinking water supplies. Saltwater intrusion has long been an issue in managing coastal aquifers that hold fresh water. Climate change will increase the occurrence of droughts, and instances of saltwater intrusion will occur more often as storm surges and floods deposit saltwater onto land and more fresh water is removed from aquifers.